So now that we have covered the deserialization of a RESP value into a Go value, now it's time to do the opposite. So in this video, we are going to do serialization of value, that is the struct that we created to represent a RESP value in Golang into a actual RESP data. So it will be serialized to a string that can be then written onto the connection as a response. First, let me start by adding a function serialize, takes a value pointer, will return a string or an error if there's any. So first thing we will do is to check if the value provided is null. If v is equal to null, we will just return an error, errors.new, value is null. Next, similar to what we did in deserialization, we will do a switch. Let me scroll this up. So switch on the type of v, and we will have some cases here. Default, if the type doesn't match any of the defined types, we want to return empty string and an error saying fmt error f invalid resp type v.type. So let's add the cases. The first case is for a simple string. So if v.type is simple string, we want to handle it here. For now, I'm just leaving it empty, or we can just do return empty string null. Similar to this, we will have cases for other RESP types. So I'm just going to add it here. So that should cover all our types. I'm just going to copy paste this so that our IDE is not complaining. Now let's write the function that will do the actual serialization. So first we will start with a simple string. I will name this function serialize simple string. This is an internal function. We are not going to export it. So it takes a value, returns a string or an error. So the null check is already done by the serialize exported function. So we don't need to worry about this because this is internal implementation. So we can simply do return, start with a plus sign, and then v.string or the string value stored in the value type, and then let's add a carriage return line feed null for error, and that's it. This case does not return any error, so you can just do this. What we can do here is return serialize simple string v and null. So you may ask the question, why are we returning an error? This is basically to cover the case when the value type could be invalid. We will also see that when we go to serialize an array, we will use recursion, but it could also return an error because in the end, we are going to call the serialize function inside it. Now let's add the other simple function. So serialize integer takes a value, string, again a similar thing, and then string con dot integer to an string. Here we can do int v dot integer plus carriage return line feed. If you notice, I'm just doing concatenation of string using the plus sign. I usually prefer to do this because if you use fmt's printf, it is using regex underneath, which can have slight performance implications. So just to get around it, I'm just using addition of strings. Let's add this here. So serialize integer v and return nil. Next, let's add serialize error. Again, v value string return. Error starts with the minus sign, so we will do this. Then v.string, which should represent the error, and then \r\n. So these are the simple ones. Let's fill this in here. Serialize error v and nil for actual error. Now let's do one for bulk string. Serialize bulk string v value string. So if you remember, bulk string could be null. So if v dot is null is true, we just return a bulk string in RESP, which is $-1 \r\n. If not the case, we will return starts with the $sign plus string con. We need to add the length of the string. So I integer to a string, then len string, then a carriage return line feed plus v.string, which is actual string, and then another carriage return line feed. And that's it. So now we can replace this here and say serialize bulk string v and nil for error. Now let's add one for serialize array. Again, v value. This is where it can return an error. Let's see the case. So again, arrays could be null. So if v dot is null, we return a null array, which is array starts with a star or asterisk. So I will say -1 for the length and \r\n. Nil for the error. Now we need to iterate through all the elements in the array, encode them, and add it to the result. So the result will look like something like this. Starts with the asterisk, string con. This is because the next is a length. Integer to a string, which should be equal to len of array. So v dot array plus \r \n plus the encoded values or the encoded elements. So we are going to add the encoded elements here. So here I will say var serialized string. This is just used to iterate over the array and add elements to the string. So we can do element range v dot array, and here we will say serialized error. We will just use the serialize function from here. So serialize, pass in the element. If error not is equal to null, we will return the error. So return an empty string and fmt errorf serializing array element. Otherwise, let's add it to the serialized string. So serialize plus equal s, and then we can just use it here, and that's it. So let's replace this here and say serialize array, and that should be our serialization. Again, I will encourage you to write some test. Try writing it yourself, but I will add it to the repo so that you can have a look. And the code for the repo can be found in the video description. Along with serialization, I'm just going to add some constructor functions. So it makes our lives easier when we are going to create RESP values. So here are the constructor functions. First is new error, which should return a error value. Then a simple string, similar to error. It should be really simple. Then we have the bulk string. So if message supplied is empty, we are just going to return a null bulk string. Otherwise, we just return a regular bulk string. Similar, we have integer and then an array. If no values, we return a null array. Otherwise, we just use the values for arrays. As you can see, it's accepting a value periodic parameter, which should be a slice. So that's all for this video. In this video, we covered serialization of RESP value, that is from our Golang RESP value into their RESP counterparts that can be sent over the network, that is a string. Now that we have serialization and deserialization set up, in the next video, we are going to write some commands. That is the commands for Redis server. And we are also going to use the Redis CLI to talk to our Redis server and verify if the commands are working as expected. I hope you liked the video. Until next time, happy coding.